What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Olamic Wayfarer 247, or 24/7 as it's called. And this one, I'll need to take a little while to tell you about it, because, let me start by giving you a tour of the knife, and then I'll tell you the story on it. So what we have here is kind of a dark bead blasted or dark stone wash harpoon recurve blade, okay, of M390 steel. I believe this is 3.5 inches. Let me just shy of 3.5 inches. So very close to 3.5 inches. You've got the same kind of dark wash titanium handle in the back. This is what they call their acid rain finish or mill pattern on the scales, and it's what you see here with the big holes and the little holes and the medium holes. You've got a lanyard hole here in the back. It is a titanium frame lock. You've got a milled pocket clip that kind of that is angled to the side, which I like a lot, that it's not putting pressure on the lock bar. You do have a lock bar insert that also does the over travel stop function. It's, like I said, it's a milled pocket clip. You've got kind of a floating back spacer. You can see there's a gap between the scale and the back spacer itself. Okay, and it is a flipper. You can also deploy it. The detent is very strong, so some of you might be able to deploy it using spider flick. I can't. So that's what you have. Now, the reason there's a story behind it is because Olamic is. I've seen several of their models. You know, the Busker, the whatchamacallit. No, I'll think of it. Another smaller one. I've seen a bunch of their models, and so I went to their website and I wanted to see what they had available. And what I saw is, I didn't know this, but you can make your own knife. Basically, you choose the blade, and they have like 4 different kind of grinds. You choose the finish of the blade. You choose your scales, and if you want a certain mill pattern on it, they have a bunch different available. You choose your colors, and that's what I chose. The blue inside of the holes is something that I chose, as well as the dark wash. And then we had bronze screws, which you also get to choose, a blue anodized back spacer. So basically, this is a configuration that I built to my specifications, and it didn't take hardly any time at all. I mean, from the time that I ordered it, there was a little back and forth just to clarify kind of what I wanted. But after that, it was probably maybe a week, 10 days at the most, when they sent me a knife that I had kind of. I mean, it's as close to as you can get to a custom without it being a custom knife. So the experience was very pleasant with Whippersnapper is the name of the knife that I was blanking on. So the Busker and the Whippersnapper, I've seen those, and the Wayfarer. So there's a Tanto blade, there's a classic drop point, there's a spear point, there's all kinds. They have a bunch of different finishes for both the scales and the blade, and so it's really nice that you can basically. You can, like I said, I chose the hardware, the holes, this color inside of the hole, the backspacer, the clip, all of it. So that was. It was a very pleasant experience, and I actually, if you like this knife, then there's a chance that you can have them do exactly what you want. You can even ask them for inlays, as mokume and zirkutai and all kinds of stuff. So anyways, that's kind of the tour of the knife. Let me give you some size comparisons here. This is a full size knife. That's against your pair 2, and that's the pair 3. So as you can see, it's a full-size knife. It's very much in the neighborhood of the size of a pair 2, and the carry, it's probably a tad bit thinner. We'll compare here thicknesses here in a little, but it carries very much like it's probably close enough to call them the same. It carries very much like a pair 2, even in this direction. I mean, yeah, you have this kind of peak, but for the harpoon, you also kind of get kind of that. So in this profile, it also carries very much like a pair 2. Is probably the best size comparison I have for you. But for the sake of finishing it up, that's against the bug out, and that is the mini bug out right there. So very much in the pair 2 size, full size knife. It's what I would consider a full size knife. So let's get started. Let's talk ergonomics. And the ergonomics on this knife for my large hand are phenomenal. They are extremely good, and the reason for that is the handle is just extremely ergonomic. You have the finger grip for the index finger, and then you have this large arc, and my entire four-finger grip lands right there. But what's nice about this is that even if you have larger hands than mine, my guess is that you would end up with your pinky in this flat back here, and that's still a comfortable position to hold the knife. For me, I end up with the knife right here. My finger on the saber grip, my finger lands right here, so the jumping is a little bit ineffective because my finger almost lands way forward on this harpoon kind of ramp right here. So the jumping is kind of misplaced in my opinion. But the handle, the weight feels in my hand. It just feels really, really nice. The pocket clip, it's angled this way, so it's never a hot spot. And besides, it's rounded in all of the places you want it to be rounded. All of the corners have been rounded, not even chamfered, just rounded. And then you've got these transitions. Even that kind of looks like a point. It's been really rounded. And then you've got the ceramic ball for the pocket clip for retention. And so all of that is just extremely comfortable. The ergonomics on this, I would say, is probably a little bit better than what you get from pair 2, which is already a very ergonomic knife. And the reason for that is that, as opposed to the pair 2, let me show you what I'm trying to say here. So you have a lot of ergonomic contouring done on the pair 2, but all of it is done in this profile. There's no rounding or anything like that. In other words, the transition between this face and that face is fairly angular. Yeah, it's rounded right here, or chamfered right at the corner. And even, I know that this is not the original scales, but even on the original scales, that's the case. So there's always this, I'm not gonna call it a hot spot, but this, you notice that that there's an edge right there. Well, on the Wayfarer, what you have is the transition is broken down by this kind of large 45-degree bevel, and then you transition into this face. So it even though it's not contoured in that direction, that face gives you the impression of that. So the knife is extremely comfortable in the handle, in the hand, I mean, and because it's kind of thicker in this area, my finger does touch the back, but I don't feel like the knife disappears in my hand just because this kind of wider area right here, I kind of feel like I have a very solid purchase on the knife. So ergonomics, I would say that they're very good on this one. Now action, it's the best I can describe it is extremely snappy. It deploys crazy fast. The detent is fairly strong. So let me try and show you here. Let me see if I can go slowly here so you can see the retention that you get. You see, it pulls the blade in with significant strength. So I'm gonna do it really, really slowly. There you go. So so the detent is pretty strong. So what that does is two things. The deployment is very snappy. Boom! It fires really reliably. Now I don't get a drop shot because the tension on the lock bar or the detent seems to be strong enough such that you don't get a drop shot action. At least I've had this knife for probably over probably about 2 years. Okay, so the breaking in period has happened, has come and gone, and the first time I closed this one, it kind of bit me because getting onto the thumb ramp here, onto the detent ramp, because it's so strong, the first time I kind of closed it, I kind of boom, just closed it on myself. So the action on deployment is extremely snappy. The detent is fairly strong, but closing it, I've had to be careful with it just because that retention is very strong. I would say that the deployment is pretty good. Closing's pretty bad, although I've got to say it does feel premium and it does feel very, very smooth. So cutting with this one is really, really nice. Let me show you blade thickness here. So blade thickness, you're in the same neighborhood as a Para 2, but even though you don't have, so on the Para 2 you have a full flat grind, so it comes down to a thinner edge than this does. This actually is pretty thick behind the edge. The only thing is that this is a recurve, and recurves, if you've never cut with a recurve knife, when you start cutting, the recurve, the curved back draws the material into the blade. So cutting through things like cardboard with this one is probably better than cutting cardboard with a Para 2. So things that require going through stuff, for example, if you want to sharpen a stick, right? If you want to sharpen a steak to put on the ground, a recurve just does very well for those kinds of things. So I avoid recurves for the most part. I got this one just because I enjoy the shape of the recurve. I think they kind of look badass. They're a pain in the ass to sharpen because you can't sharpen with this type of motion on a fixed system. You kind of have to do the sweeping motion on a sharpening system. So they're kind of a pain in the ass to sharpen. But I have to say that cutting with a recurve, it's really, really a pleasant experience. Obviously, this is it's not great for utility cuts because you get all the belly, you don't get any of the point. You have to kind of point down a lot to get to the point where your utility cuts kind of land on the belly. But for something like, again, cutting, processing cardboard, or sharpening a stick, or those kinds of tasks, this is going to be, or even, for example, cutting rope or paracord or any of those kinds of things, this is excellent. The recurve kind of gathers everything right here in the recurve, and then you're just able to cut through the thing very nicely. Before I forget, on the ergonomics, it's kind of a little bit weird because you do have this kind of wannabe finger choil. It's a bit small for my large hands, so I never use it in this manner, but I guess if you had medium or smaller hands, this might be a choil for you. Fit and finish. Fit and finish has been, I don't know how to describe it. Probably a little bit better than a zero tolerance, and not quite getting to a hinder and a crease reef. So but and the reason that I say it like that is because this knife, the cost of this knife is very much in the Chris Reeve and Rick Hinder price point, but I don't think it quite matches the quality or the fit and finish that those have. Especially, for example, the Rick Hinder Action feels a lot better, a lot better tuned, especially with well, I'm talking about the Gen 6, no, not the Gen 6, is the tri-way pivot generation of knives for Rick Hinder. It has a better deployment than a Chris Reeve, just because the Chris Reeve knives, they're phosphor bronze washers, they're not meant to deploy quickly. But even then, the knife feels, I don't know. It does feel a good quality knife. It just doesn't feel that quality for the price, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The closing action it's a little bit strange. For example, when the anodizing was a little bit inconsistent, because if you see, and you might think, well, you've had it for a while. Yeah, I've had it for a while, but even though I've had it for a while, this is the way it came. You see the bronze color. It's very different from the pivot bronze color, right? This is like a much yellower, intense color. This is kind of very subdued. The blue anodizing inside of the handle this one looks more of a blurple or even purple color on the pivot collar, and you can see it here too. You got kind of a purplish blue around the pivot collar. This bronze is closer to that, but even then you can see that this is more subdued. And then you have the intense blue anodizing. So I was kind of hoping that the pivot color and this had the same kind of intense blue anodizing hues. Instead, it kind of looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors where I kind of just wanted the 2. So it's small things like that. Now, it's small things, and you are getting a customized knife. So yeah, maybe on their just production non-customized knife, you get a little bit better. Maybe, I don't know. I don't have one of those. But I will say that the fact that you can customize everything on it is something that's really really cool. So final thoughts and airing of grievances. I think so. I've spoken about the airing of grievances. I think that closing it, I feel like I have to put pressure here on the blade, and then I have to get my finger out of the way, but I have to still be pushing, and it closed on me. Even though I've handled plenty of knives, it kind of bit me. This one bit me. The anodizing on it was a bit inconsistent, and one thing that I did not like is that you can see through this hole, right, that they've done, that you can see the lock bar insert over travel stop, and I hate that I can see it. I think that this hole that they do for their acid rain either has to be elsewhere or not be present, because I understand that you have the same part, but the fact that you can see it kind of breaks it does a departure from the rest of what you're doing in the knife, right? If you're doing dark wash and blues and bronzes, and then you've got this stainless steel, hardened steel insert in there that you can see, and with a tab and with a hole that it just kind of bothers me that it's there. It's a small detail, but it is something. Something that I forgot to mention I like a lot is that let me see, hopefully you can tell, in there's they tell you the serial number and the name Wayfarer 24/7. So I would say I am curious of using a whippersnapper. That's in the Tanto blade. I think that's one knife that I'm gonna try and get, but I'm not gonna customize it. I'm just gonna get one from directly from a dealer. Uh, this one, I would say that the ergonomics are phenomenal. I think it cuts really well. There are some nitpicks at the price point that you're selling this that I don't think quite match up with a Chris Reeve or a Rick Kinder. But the fact that you can customize everything on it, the colors, the finishes, the anodizing, the blade shape, all of it, I think that's something really cool and something really unique. Because in Rick Kinder, he offers a bunch of different shapes, but you have to buy whatever he offers you. Here, I can pick and choose and say, I want the satin blade with the stone wash, with the dark stone wash, with the, you can mix and match, which you can't do with Hinder. For example, in Rick Hinder, you have to get the working finish blade with the working finish scales. And conversely, you have to get the blue anodized with the satin blade. You can't get the satin blade with a battle blue, for instance. So the fact that you can do that in Olamic, and the experience was phenomenal. I've got to say that they were really great about it. So if you like the customization that you can do, then I would absolutely encourage you to try it. It's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. The guys there are they really know their stuff, and I think they've done this enough to where they get you. And what's nice is that they, before they send you the knife, they send you a photo and they say, is this what you meant? And at that point you can say, that's not what I meant. And then he does something else and you say, is this what you meant? And you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I meant. So I went through a couple of those and they were excellent about it. So take a look. Definitely worth taking a look, and hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if I earned it, then like and subscribe, and until I see you at the next one, take care.